Guys, did you see the leak? Blizzard's being dissolved in 6 months! Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and I really didn't want to have to make this video, but apparently people keep asking me about this, because they think it's legit enough to be worth discussing. So here's a highlight from my stream where we fully dissect it and explain why this latest alleged leak about Blizzard dissolving is, I'm 95 to 99% sure, complete baloney. Oh, and before you ask, I'm swaying back and forth and out of breath because I am on a stationary bike. Alright. So sign number 1. New fresh account called Blizzard Leak on the MMO Champions forums. Alright. Buckle up, folks, this is going to be quite the ride. Alright. According to this totally fake Blizzard Leak, Blizzard Entertainment is being dissolved early 2022. Right there, I laughed. It is going to be replaced by a new team called Insight that will be a more direct part of the renamed Activision Insight. Much of Blizzard, though not all, will be sacked and replaced with new employees for Insight. So, let me explain why this is incredibly banal. The reason this person wrote this fanfic is because they figure, oh, Blizzard controversy right now, right? Okay, this is an enormous decision that would take much longer to, 1, pick a name, and 2, even decide upon than what? It's been 3 weeks since this big controversy broke? Because there would be zero chance they would even consider doing this before the big controversy. As much as people on Blizzard, Blizzard Entertainment, you know, again, we'll just talk about before the controversy. Blizzard Entertainment was still one of the most recognized and lauded names in gaming. No matter how much WoW players want to complain, no matter how much whatever players of their games want to complain, the fact is they still have a ton of players. Companies go through controversies. It happens. Most companies survive controversies. It happens. How many companies do you know? How many giant companies, right? Do you know had a controversy and then shut down? Typically, the boss steps down. That's the most dramatic thing you tend to see. The boss is replaced or the boss steps down. Or there's just some shakeup in the leadership, period, right? To dissolve Blizzard is completely absurd. And even if this would be what would happen, this would take months to decide, not weeks. Much of Blizzard will be sacked and replaced with new employees. Why then? Why? All the senior brass that could talk back to Bobby Kotick is gone. This is Bobby Kotick's ideal scenario, to have full control of Blizzard and it's still called Blizzard. To replace everyone? Like, why not just get a different, like it's not even Blizzard at that point. Why would you get, it doesn't make any business sense to do this. It makes no business sense. Not until Blizzard is clearly beyond redemption. Not until the Blizzard Entertainment brand is so cancerous that Activision no longer wants it to be associated with it. And we're not there yet. They are currently in the process of weathering a storm. They're gonna wait at least 1/4 of a year to get their next financial calls update, to see, we didn't really lose much money, we don't care. If they lost like 50% revenue in their next quarter, yeah, maybe. There is zero chance that big business people are making these monumental, massive decisions this quickly. So right off the bat, the first paragraph is complete banality. Next, Diablo was considered by far the most promising franchise at the present. I laugh again. Okay. So this is clearly written by a WoW player. Like, this is completely solidified. I mean, obviously, this is on the MMO Champion forums. As much as the sentence makes me happy, on a personal level, World of Warcraft is Blizzard's biggest revenue driver. And you can twist the words and say, well, most promising as in... it's what they have the most content planned for. Okay, sure, fine. Whatever. D4 has 3 planned expansions. That's not unreasonable. Starcraft 2 had... it had 2 expansions. Anyway. A remake of the original Diablo is in the works. Laugh, 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 laugh. Why? Again, as much as I would like this, why would they do this? A remake of the original Diablo. I mean, if you really want to stretch what remake means, maybe. But they're definitely not just making a better graphics version of the original Diablo. Even in a modern engine with, like, full 3D, they're making Diablo 4. Like, why would they... It doesn't make sense. We know they're not remastering it. They've released the original Diablo on GOG. They didn't do that for any game they remastered. You can't get D2 on GOG. You can't get Starcraft on GOG. Them releasing Diablo 1 on GOG was them saying, meh, whatever. Also, Sierra, the expansion Hellfire to Diablo 1, which Blizzard tries to pretend doesn't exist, because it was made out of house. There is some ownership dilemma, or there's something going on, right? Because it's made by Sierra, so it's like, who has the rights? There's something weird going on with all that. Which, I mean, fine, okay, so they remake the original Diablo, they just don't include Hellfire. That's fine, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Diablo Immortal will receive a PC and console release a year after its mobile release. It's, an easy/safe prediction. An untitled Diablo PvP game will begin development under Insight. So, it'll begin development in 2022? How does that even make sense? Like, they're planning now what game they're gonna start working on in 8 months? Why wouldn't they just start working on it? The Diablo team, like the Hearthstone team, will be mostly unaffected by the company shifts. World of Warcraft is entering official maintenance mode. Blizzard decided, we don't want your money anymore. How does this make any sense? The little work that was already put into the expansion after Shadowlands will be released 9.3 sometime in 2023. 9.3, despite the name, has nothing to do with Shadowlands and is just made up of salvage stuff from 10.0. Even if minimal work is being put on World of Warcraft right now, okay, maybe we have differing definitions of maintenance mode. But as far as I'm aware, it is still tremendously profitable for Blizzard to produce WoW expansions. Shadowlands did not fail from a commercial standpoint. It was one of the fastest selling PC games of all time. It held a record for a week before Cyberpunk came out. Yeah, we made enough money, we're going into maintenance mode now. That's a big brain business decision. Once you reach the peak, you just stop. You just quit. Never gonna do better than that, might as well not even try. Come on. Classic servers will be merged into 1 or 2 with the launch of Wrath of the Lich King Classic in 2023. This will be the last Classic expansion planned. So, this isn't unreasonable, but again, as long as Wrath of the Lich King is very successful, I think most people want it to stop there, right? After Wrath of the Lich King is what, Mists of Pandaria, and no one really wants to go there, right? Anyway, I mean, as populations drop, merging servers makes sense, but whatever. A new untitled World of Warcraft successor MMORPG is in the works. Looking to take a lot from Final Fantasy XIV. This is going to be developed by a majority new team than those who made and worked on WoW. It's not a sequel, but a total reboot with new lore. Currently only in the planning stage, the base game will focus on Valencess, the Eastern Kingdoms, and Outland. Oh, this is like the Elflands? With playable races from both worlds. It is currently believed to not have factions. It will not borrow from Hearthstone, which will remain separate and continually updated with new expansions. So, I'm not a WoW player, but does this sound at all reasonable? At least what the game would focus on? Also, I mean, would you make a successor to WoW? Like, let's just call it WoW 2, for argument's sake. They say it's not a sequel, but a total reboot. I mean, what are they gonna do then? If it's a total reboot, you're not gonna drop the World of Warcraft branding. So what are you gonna call it? If it's not a sequel, you can't call it WoW 2. Even though that makes the most sense of what to do, right? It doesn't make sense for arguably the most successful or most popular MMORPG ever to just stop using its brand recognition. So what would they call it if not World of Warcraft 2? Worlds of Warcraft? Doesn't really fit with what they're describing. Well, hold on. Outland is a separate world, right? Valences and Outland, are these two separate worlds? Isn't Outland... No, Outland isn't where the orcs are from. That's the other planet. Yeah, I don't know. And if you go with a word other than world, you're gonna break that nice alliteration. It's not that I don't think a WoW 2 could be a thing, but it feels like it would be called WoW 2. From a business perspective, why would you not make a World of Warcraft sequel? Like, either... So, okay. Because the first thought is, why even make another MMORPG? Well, that's what they were doing with Project Titan, right? So, way back in the day, Blizzard was working on Project Titan, which was an MMORPG that ended up turning into Overwatch. But it was going to be a near-future sci-fi / sci-fantasy MMORPG. They were working on that because this was before they realized WoW will never end. WoW had reached, or was reaching its peak popularity. Blizzard never anticipated the success. I mean, no one could have anticipated the success that WoW would go on to have. They had no idea. They never had a game that lasted 10 plus years. They didn't know that it was possible that for, 10 years WoW would still be running. So they started, as a smart business does, developing the next thing that would come after World of Warcraft. So they're like, oh man, look, we made this World of Warcraft game and it's super successful. Look how good it's doing. The numbers keep climbing. And now, because we are smart business people, we're not just going to ride this until it dies. We're going to start thinking about, okay, we know that in a couple of years, this is going to be on a downward trend, and it's going to eventually die out. So we want to make sure that by the time WoW is dipping, we launch a new MMO, and boom, we bring in a new audience. We get some converts from WoW. We get some people who dropped off WoW, and that's going to be our new game. We let WoW fade away. Titan suffered tremendous development woes. And then they were realizing at the same time, guys, several years have passed. According to my watch, WoW is still super successful. Apparently, we can just release an expansion every 2 years, and this model works. People keep playing and buying. We don't have to make a replacement MMO. So, obviously, WoW has now been on a downward trend since about 2010, right? Its peak was roughly circa 2010 from a player perspective, player base, player number perspective, subscribers, whatever. Money is a different thing. We don't need to talk about money. That's the corporate side, and they've managed to squeeze more money out of people, but that's a whole other thing. WoW saw a bit of a resurgence. What was it, around Legion? There was some expansion that saw a bit of a resurgence, but it never hit those same peak numbers. So WoW overall has been on a downward trend for the last decade. It's not unreasonable that Blizzard would work on a successor, but would you make a successor, or would you just do like Path of Exile and basically put out a new expansion that is WoW 2 that just transitions everyone over? I guess if the game isn't going to be different enough on a fundamental level, you can't do that. Still, though, this feels more like a WoW player's fanfic of what he wants to happen. A Warcraft mobile MMORPG has been in the works since 2019 only, and will continue under Insight. Wait, mobile MMORPG project. Okay, it's possible. Focusing on drawing in an audience in China. Yeah, so we'll come back to this. It is separate from the new PC MMORPG. The last report said it was canon to WoW, though it is unknown whether this will change with WoW entering maintenance mode. Okay, so Immortal was revealed in 2018 after having been in the works for at least 1 year, if not more. I forget exactly what's the public timeline. China. In the last couple of years, there have been some concerns arising among developers about the Chinese market. In China, the government controls everything. And the government has a rigid culture branch that wants to control what kind of media its citizens are exposed to. We typically see this expressed in the form of, oh, they're censoring bones for the Chinese market. They're censoring things for the Chinese market. As a tangent, that is often done because we don't know exactly what the Chinese culture, whatever, there's some official name for the department. Department of Culture, I don't know. We don't know exactly what their requirements are or exactly what lets things get by or not. Game devs will preemptively censor things in order to get it past the Chinese censors. So they often go overboard more than they have to, is what I'm saying. Because there's no super clear guidelines. There's amorphous guidelines, basically saying stuff that is, you know, whatever, like a cult or things like that. It's like, it's not a list of like, cannot show bones, cannot do this. It's basically cannot be something we don't like. Oh, thanks. Okay. I'm glad I'm you and I know exactly what you mean by that. But outside of that, so tangent closed. The Chinese audience for the longest time was emerging and being seen by the West as, oh man, we can make so much money from China. There are so many people in China. There is just such an absurdly high number of people in China that, and they have certain, you know, every culture has different preferences in what they want. So, okay, in China, these are the kind of games that people like. So if we make games that tailor to that audience, we can make so much money. True, but over the past couple of years, there has been something going on with the Chinese government potentially planning to negatively impact the gaming industry in China. I forget exactly, and I'm sure someone will bring up in chat, exactly what the headlines have been over the past couple of years. Exactly what they want or they seem to be planning to do. But I believe it's causing a lot of trepidation in developers who were banking on a Chinese market. So to be currently like making plans that are banking on China, I feel it unlikely that right now plans are being made to tailor specifically to China when it is possible that by the time this game launches, the Chinese market won't even exist anymore, or it'll be a shadow of its former self. It's not a for sure thing, but there's enough uncertainty there that I don't think it makes business sense to develop something for years for a market that may disappear by the time you get the product out the gate. Alright, a Hearthstone spin-off game is coming out. It is going to build off of the auto-battler modes added. Sure, whatever, who cares? It may be, whatever, you know, it's possible, whatever. Overwatch is believed to be unsalvageable. Why? Failing to capture any modern interest. Because you've not done anything with it. This is an asinine statement. Who would think this? It's not like you tried a bunch of things and they failed. Overwatch is believed to be... What leader or corporate exec would say, yeah, Overwatch, that game that gave Blizzard its resurgence in 2016, that immensely popular and successful game that became a cultural phenomenon overnight. Yeah, it's unsalvageable because we can't figure out how to get Overwatch 2 out. Eh, come on. Failing to capture any modern interest. The interest is there, you're just not doing anything. Anyone who's coming late, this is a fake leak. I'm highlighting all the reasons this leak is stupid and fake. If they mean specifically the game Overwatch 1 is unsalvageable, as opposed to Overwatch the brand, well, no, because they're saying Overwatch 2 has been cancelled, as have multiple smaller mobile projects set in the same universe. Yeah, they're saying they're giving up on the whole brand, which is completely asinine. Overwatch in late 2022 will receive the maps and heroes planned for Overwatch 2, but not the PvE modes. A Netflix original series is in the works and seems unaffected by these cancellations. Activision would not allow Overwatch to just be sunset without first trying to milk it of all it's got. And a Netflix series isn't enough to do that. I think it's more likely that the Netflix series is cancelled than Overwatch 2. Starcraft is completely abandoned in any way, shape, or form. There are no plans for new RTS or MOBA of any kind. Yeah, I mean, this is probably true, for the most part. There's no plans for new RTS, I believe. No MOBA, I believe. Starcraft is completely abandoned. I believe they're maybe kicking around ideas of what to do with the Starcraft IP. So, okay, here's the thing. Yeah, no, this statement is just false. If you are a publisher, one of the most valuable things you own is intellectual property. Brand power. Even if this brand has not released a game in 10 years, why do you think it is that sometimes we see out of nowhere a game in a long-dead franchise release from, like, a different developer, maybe the same publisher, different developer, and then the game is, like, it's either terrible or it's just so different from the previous games. Because what happens is, if we bring up our Photoshop, IP. IP is owned by the publisher, not by the developer. Intellectual property, which, for our purposes, we're really just talking about franchises in this particular case. So, publisher, big company, owns multiple developers. One day, Dev 1 creates a game. What shall we name our game? Let's call it Devil Quest. Alright. Devil Quest goes on to be a very successful game. This developer now makes Devil Quest 2 under the blessing of this publisher. Awesome, it works. This developer then goes on to make a couple other games. Failure, and then this dev studio gets shut down. Boom. Dev Quest 2 was successful, but not terribly successful. So Dev, let's say they're either shut down or they're booted off. Here, let's say they're booted off. They go on to live, but now, because they published under publisher, they don't have the rights to Devil Quest anymore. Publisher has the rights to Devil Quest. 10 years later, there's some resurgence in the genre of Devil Quest, and so publisher gets Dev 2 to make Devil Quest 3. So now you have, why do they do that? Well, okay, either because there's a resurgence, or let's say things are tight for publisher. Let's say, okay, I jumped ahead of things. Let's say that things are tight for publisher. Publisher needs to make a game. They need to make games. They need to make money. And they're asking their dev studios, pitch us ideas for us to greenlight. And so Dev Studio 3 pitches an idea for an original game, an original IP, a big MMO. It's going to be the next big thing after WoW. Publisher says, nah, too big, too risky, don't want to do it. Damn, okay. Dev Studio 4 pitches, alright, I want to do a small game, an intimate, story-driven game. We just need a small team, maybe like 20 people. We can put out this game. It's going to be an emotional, story-driven game. It's like a 5-hour experience. It's small, we can make it quick. And publisher says, nah, not gonna make enough money off that. Think bigger. We don't want to spend the resources on something so small. And then Dev Studio 2 is like, okay, what are these guys gonna approve? Okay, let's look. What IPs does the publisher own? Okay, they own X, Y, Z. Oh, look, Devil Quest. Yeah, no one's made a Devil Quest game in like 10 years. They own Devil Quest. Okay, how about we pitch a modern reimagining of Devil Quest. We do some research. None of us have ever played Devil Quest, but, you know, whatever. It looks cool. The box art is nice. Alright, let's pitch Devil Quest 3. This time it's in heaven. And, it's gonna be a complete twist. And, yeah, hopefully fans of the old one will like it. We don't know. We're not fans of the old one. We never played it, but this will make you money. This will make you money. And publisher's like, Devil Quest, that's got brand power, good. We're making use of these old IPs that we own. Go for it. And that's how you sometimes get games. And I'm not intending to reference Diablo 3 in this. I think this is coming across as like taking shots at Diablo 3. This is not, to clarify, this is not the story of Diablo 3. I can see that there are parallels, but that's more of an accident. It's not intentional. But that's how you get, like, you see things like this, right? Because publishers have these IPs, and they're not going to just let them die out if there's any kind of ability to make money off of them. I'm going to get caught up on chat a little bit here, but I think, does that finalize? Oh, okay, we're almost done, I'm just going to get caught up on chat a little bit before I keep going. Etherversing, why do Blizzard development cycles have to be so long between games? I mean, D2 to D3, 12 years, and D4 probably 12 years. So they don't have to be that long, but we can explain why those are long. So, I think like pre-Warcraft 3, early Blizzard actually had, well, for the industry, their games took long to come out. For the industry, and even then it was only a couple of years. But early Blizzard, in a matter of about, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, pumped out at least 3 to 5 games, plus games including expansions. So in the year 2000 is when D2 came out. 96 was Diablo 1, I believe. If I have my timeline correct. 2012, 12 years later, was D3. In 2008 is when D3 was revealed. So the reason between D2 and D3 there was so much time that elapsed was because D3 was originally being produced by Blizzard North. A separate studio, the one that made Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, used to be called... They were Condor, right? Yeah, Condor. Condor Games. They were absorbed by Blizzard and renamed Blizzard North. What did I write here? Blizzarth? Okay, Blizzard North is now called Blizzarth. So they were working on Diablo 3 into the early 2000s when there were some disputes with Vivendi, the company that owned Blizzard. And then a lot of the Blizzard North brass left. There was the big exodus. So a lot of them left. Development continued for a while, but, you know, when all of your senior leadership leaves, or when a huge amount of it leaves, and all your big talent and all your big brains, it's tough. So we have some screenshots of what Diablo 3 was originally going to look like. And I forget what year exactly it was, but eventually Blizzard North was fully shut down. And then development on D3 was completely rebooted. I think it was 2006? Was that when... Yeah, I think it was 2006 that our version of D3 was in development from. So, for like 6 years-ish, development of one version of D3 was underway. And then they basically scrapped that and started over, and the version of D3 that we know today took about 6 years to make. If my timeline is correct. So... 6 years is a lot more reasonable of amount of time to take to develop a game. This scenario is exceptionally rare, right? Where you have these people leave because of disputes with the publisher or the parent company. Vivendi's not in the picture anymore, etc. So then the question is, okay, what about now D4, D3 to D4? What year is that going to be? Well, I don't think it's going to be... 12 years would be 2024. I guess 2023 would be 11, and 2022 would be 10. More than 10, though, because if it's 2022, it's end of 10. Sorry, if it's 2022, it would be end of 2022, which would be close to 11 years. So why is that taking so long? Well, 2014, Reaper of Souls, and then from Reaper of Souls, there was supposed to be a third expansion. That got cancelled, and they started working on Diablo 4. And I believe it was the first 2 years that were the original version of D4, which was called Hades. This is all alleged from leaks. First 2 years was Hades before that was cancelled. And then they started working on the current version of D4. So 2016 to 2024, in theory, would be another 6 years. Right? I guess the question here is, well, why is it that for D2 they started working on D3 almost immediately, whereas for D3 they didn't start working on D4 until 2014? Back in the day, there wasn't the plan to have 1 million expansions and the game lives forever. Back in the day, Blizzard planned to just release a new game every couple years. So they started working on... They were at first going to make a second expansion. I think it might have been after expansion 1, actually. X1. We had Lord of Destruction. There was going to be a second expansion, but they decided instead of doing a second expansion, they'll just do D3. So it's possible development was maybe a year after. But in the case of D3, the plan was 2 expansions. Right? Diablo 3 with the auction house was meant to be able to drive revenue for a longer period of time, and they'd be able to release a couple of expansions before needing to worry about the next big thing. Now, one thing that's niggling at the back of my memory is, was there some other reboot that happened at some point? I don't remember if there was a second reboot of development. Alright, we're like at the end here. Because their franchises and lead characters like Sylvanas, Tracer, and Kerrigan no longer capture people's imaginations like they used to. How could you say that about Tracer? Like, how do you know that? There has been a lot of work done on developing a new IP. So this, yeah, I believe that a lot of work is being done on developing new IPs in general, but I don't think it's because they feel like their old franchises are garbage. After 3 canceled projects, they have one they've been working on since early 2020, set in a unique fantasy universe. It will debut with a gacha-style RPG and will be announced at either Gamescom or E3 next year. So, this is within the realm of possibility. It's not going to be, I don't think, so Diablo 4, Blizzard's hands were twisted, basically. Blizzard doesn't want too much time to elapse between reveal and release. D3 was 4 years from reveal to release. During that time, people saw the game change significantly during development, which led people to complain about, oh, why was this dropped? Why was this changed? This looked so much better before. What are you doing? You guys don't know anything. But that's just normal. Like, in 4 years, a game is gonna go through a lot of development. So their next mainline game that they launched, or actually every game since D3, maybe barring Heroes of the Storm, the time between reveal and release was shortened significantly. Overwatch was the biggest example of this. Overwatch being their next AAA full-on big game was 1.5 years between reveal and release. If Blizzard just started developing in early 2020 a new game, they are not announcing that at Gamescom or E3 next year. There's no way a AAA mainline title is gonna take like 3 years to develop. Impossible. Not at Blizzard. 5 to 6 years, more reasonable. So if they've just been working on it since 2020, there's no way they're already planning to reveal it. This is asinine. A game, a AAA title, could be in development for like 1 or 2 years or more and then be cancelled because they're not happy with how it's going. There is no chance this game is less than a year in development and they're already talking about announcing it. Asinine. And then this is just the icing on the cake, right? Gacha style. Just to make people extra pissed, right? This is a fanfic leak. It's not real. BlizzCon Line 2022 has been cancelled, but I'm certain you've all guessed that. Why would it be cancelled? Why would it be cancelled? Just ending with as many incendiary comments as possible. So, for anyone who sees this leak, I'm 95% sure it is complete hokum. And that's gonna wrap up this video. So, baloney. Don't trust random leaks. Scrutinize them. Does this make sense? Does it pass some basic tests of does this make any sense or is it cockamamie? It is cockamamie. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. As a reminder, we're doing our annual Patreon drive. You have until the end of the month, just a couple more days, to be a Patreon subscriber at even the $1 tier to get your name on that poster, which will be available in the shop. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more Diablo content.